Let's start with Ganga Mata ki Jai. Vyasa sings before singing the Bhagavatam. See, before starting anything, you should remember the divine. You should remember the divine grace so that it will go beautifully. Vyasa says, before starting your story, who else I can remember? I have to remember only you again. Even before starting the story, I have to remember only you. So now we don't know who to remember. I think we should remember the energy which landed as Nityananda. Only that can guide us. Let it be very clear. Just like you all, I am also going to listen. I promise. Just like you all, I am also going to listen. Because I don't know. I also don't know what is going to come out or what way it is going to express itself. Let it be very clear. Just like you all, I am also going to listen. So I also bow down to the energy which landed as Nityananda and let that energy guide and do the whole thing as it wants. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavivirididam kalmashapakam Shravanamangalam Srimadadadam Bhuvigrunandi de Bhuridajana Nityanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvaditam Gagana Sadrisam Tattvamasnyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavadidam Drigунarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Let's start with the birth. Let me describe exactly the experience of birth. I do not want to add my commentary to it now. Let me describe the experience itself. Maybe later on I'll give the explanation. The experience itself is really wonderful. There was no duel or two things first, like a darkness covered by darkness. I can't even say darkness covered by darkness. That word doesn't have meaning. It can be said even in the way like a light covered by light. There was no experience, experiencer and experienced separately. There was only one consciousness, which is intelligent, which is alive, and which is enjoying itself. Understand? The consciousness is such, it is alive, and it knows it is alive, and it enjoys just being alive. Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means it is alive, truth. Chit means it knows it is alive, means it is conscious of its life, its existence. Ananda means it is enjoying its own existence. That is what we call Satchidananda. Yesterday I was telling that, I think yesterday or today, that Baba, Naga Baba with whom I lived, he was in Uttarakashi. Maybe I'll narrate the incident later on. With Naga Baba, I lived in Uttarakashi. He's a great Mahatma. I used to ask him, Baba, why don't you teach me something? He will never open his mouth. He was a very different kind of soul. Finally, somehow, one day, I sat with him and said, something, Baba, tell something. At least one line, so that I will remember that constantly and keep that with me. And he was much more strong than me. He did not open his mouth. Finally, one day he said, he doesn't speak much. He said, means he's going, that he is continuing his travel. So I also have to go on my way. I said, I'm coming with you. He said, no, I'm going. Then he gave me that pipe with which he used to smoke. That pipe, he gave it to me. I said, okay, Baba, I'm so happy you gave me this pipe. I kept that pipe with me for quite a long time. I don't know after that what happened to that pipe. I asked him, this pipe may be, it can get lost. Tell me something which will not be lost. I'll carry it with me always. Some one line, one word, one teaching, something. Something, tell me. He was not opening his mouth. I said, all right, next, whatever word you are going to utter, even if you say, fool, get lost, I'll take that word as a mantra. Whatever you are going to say now, open your mouth, at least you will say goodbye, because now we are going to depart. That word I'll take it as a mantra. Then he started laughing and he said one beautiful line, Deham Naham Koham Soham. Whole Vedanta, just in one line. Deham Naham, I am not the body. Then Koham, who am I? Ask, you will experience Soham, I am the whole. I am everything. Deham Naham Koham Soham. Deham, this body. Naham means I am not that. Then who am I? Koham. Ask, you will realize Soham. Soham means the whole universe. I am the whole universe. When he said that word, I just took it as a big gift, prasada. Then I asked him, Baba, you said this word. I'll take this as your blessing. But can you give me few more words so that I'll digest this? Then he said, that is why I did not open my mouth. If I say one line, then you'll ask for something more, just like you all. Then, of course, he did not speak. Then, just before leaving, he used to have his one iron thing to kindle the fire. With that chimta, he just gave me one blow on the head. Suddenly, I realized the same truth which I was saying now, which I was telling you. Being alive and knowing that you are alive and enjoying that you are alive, celebrating that you are alive. Being alive, knowing that you are alive, enjoying, celebrating that you are alive. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Being alive is Sat, truth. Knowing that you are alive is consciousness. And enjoying, ecstatic, the celebrating that you are alive is Ananda. In the deep sleep state, you are there. Sat is there. You are alive. But Chit is not there. You don't know you are alive. That is why the sleep is not Samadhi. That is why sleep is not Samadhi. That is the difference between Samadhi and sleep. You are alive, but you are not aware that you are alive. Not only being alive, being aware that you are alive and enjoying that you are alive is Ananda, Satchidananda. First, it was just the Satchidananda, nothing else. I was conscious, I was alive, and I know I was alive, and I was just enjoying that I am alive. I exist. Suddenly, in a very vague way, one small light, please understand, I am explaining frame by frame what happened during my birth. During my birth, frame by frame what happened, I am explaining for biography. Later on, I'll explain the every frame. The first frame was a light in somewhere around South India, southern India. But I do not know at that moment it was Arunachala or something like that. Just somewhere around southern India. That was the first slide, first scene. The next scene, like a star, shooting star, I was just pulled by that light. The second scene was like a shooting star, I entered into that light. The third scene in my consciousness was the Arunachala. By now, I know I already taken the body. I already taken the body. I am inside the body. It was around 11:45, January 1st, 1978. Then it took around 40 to 45 minutes for me to settle into the body and come out. So according to doctors, the time is something like a 12:30. But according to me, 11:45. 11:45 of January 1st. That was the time. First, the Arunachala appeared in the consciousness, in the inner space. And the moment I saw the Arunachala in the inner space, I know the body is, I have assumed the body, or I entered into the body. It was such an auspicious energy. Whenever a master lands on the planet Earth, a clairvoyance happens. Like how they say now the holes in the ozone layer, something like that. The conscious layer is drilled for a enlightened being to land. I can describe this scene like whenever a clairvoyance lands on the planet Earth, whole planet Earth celebrates. The whole existence celebrates. That is what they describe metaphysically. All the gods and goddesses land and celebrated the Krishna's birth. That is what they mean when they say these great masters, when they took birth, all the gods and goddesses showered flowers, they landed and celebrate. This is what they mean. Means such an auspicious energy happens on the planet Earth. The whole existence celebrates. The whole existence celebrates. Somehow in my case, not only gods and goddesses, people all over the world were celebrating because it was a new year. It was a new year. All over the world were celebrating already. Not only the gods and goddesses. Because such an auspicious energy lands on the planet Earth. It is impossible to describe. Because whenever a clairvoyance happens on the planet Earth, using that same hole, same opening, you can also escape. The possibility for beings to get enlightened, see the same door only. Whether to come here or from here to go there, same door only. When the door opens, you can sneak in or sneak out. There is a possibility you can take a jump. That is why we use all the birthdays or the Jayanti days. We call it as Jayanti, not birth. Please understand, whenever we mention the birthday of an enlightened master, we don't call that as a birth date. Jayanti. Jayanti means they visited, they came, not taking birth, they came. That is why we call Jayanti means in Sanskrit literally going. Going. That is the word means. Because the masters visit the planet. It's called Jayanti. We use the masters' Jayantis to meditate because the clairvoyance creates a possibility for you to take a quantum jump. You can also escape using that same zone and space into spacelessness, into timelessness. It was again Ashtami Tithi, the 8th day, and Krishna Ashtami means the towards the new moon. From full moon to new moon is Krishna Vaksha. From new moon to full moon is Sukla Vaksha. Is the Krishna Vaksha. What do you call in English? Moon waning. The 8th day of moon waning. Krishna Vaksha Ashtami. Somebody asked me, Swamiji, why did you choose January 1st to take birth? I made a casual comment. In India, all masters' birthday is becoming a holiday. Already we are suffering with too much of holidays. I do not want future my disciples to do something and get one more holiday. Better let's take birth in the already declared holiday so that India won't much suffer with some more holidays. Anyhow, Within 45 minutes, I became aware of the body after the body came out. I could feel very clearly that I am conscious of the whole happening. I was not unconscious. I was conscious of whole happening. And it was a very auspicious, ecstatic, joyful experience. It was not painful. It was an auspicious, joyful experience. My mother also said that it was a very easy delivery. She was also saying, very easy delivery. One more thing. This is the very beautiful experience which I am sharing first time. Till the age of 3, till I met the Raghupati Yogi, who was my first teacher, till I met him and till he initiated me, whenever I was alone, I used to see 11 people around me. Whenever I was alone, whether I was put in the bed or any time, I used to see 11 people around me. And I used to think, actually now only I say whenever I am alone, 11 people used to be around me. That time I used to think they used to be always around me. They are some relatives. I never had the idea that they are not my relatives. They are not my relatives. My house used to be too filled with too many people. It's like a giant family. You don't know who is who and what is what, and who is whose husband or whose daughter and all those things. It's a giant family. And I never used to know my relatives or family people and all those things. 11 people used to be always around me. So I thought something like just like a normal thing. Only after I met the Raghupati Yogi, the moment he initiated me, I'll describe later on how the initiation happened and all those things. The moment he initiated me, all the 11 have disappeared and I have never seen them again. When I asked Raghupati Yogi, he was shocked and he said, they must be Bhairavas. Bhairavas, maybe they were protecting your body. And I neither understood nor appreciated his comment. I neither understood his comment nor appreciated what he meant. And I just left it. In my young age, I used to have a notebook in which I'll write all these stories which I hear from the saints or some instructions. This Raghupati Yogi is a person, very meticulous person. Whenever he teaches me something, he will force me to write down. Anyhow, fortunately, my mother preserved all those notebooks. We got the notebooks, now it is in the ashram. We should thank her for preserving all these beautiful relics. She has preserved the whole thing, because after I left the house, the family went through a lot of change. Means the house shifting from place to place, some 3-4 places they shifted the house. She did not protect the furnitures or all the other things which she had in the house, but she protected all these things very carefully. Actually, in the notebook, I have written in my own hand, maybe around the age of 10 or something, about this 11 Bhairavas also. Before eating, I used to do morning puja. In the puja time, I'll repeat this, all the God's names. In that, I used to repeat this 11 Bhairavas names. Because this Raghupati Yogi said, later on when I read Sharada Devi's life, I realized Sharada Devi was also protected by 8 Sakis of Devi when she was a baby. When she was a baby, 8 Sakis of Devi, 8 attendants of Devi used to be always with Sharada Devi. She says, only when I read that I understood the comment of this Raghupati Yogi. Earlier I was neither able to understand nor able to appreciate. Actually, I asked Raghupati Yogi, then why did they disappear now? He said, now they have handed over you to me because now I am taking care. There is no need for them to be here. That's the reason they are not around you. They are not here physically. This Raghupati Yogi is one of my great inspiration. I can say he's a first teacher. Even though he himself is not an enlightened person, he happened in my life for a purpose. I can say my whole physical strength I vow to him. My body is able to be alive and hold the enlightenment. See, enlightenment is like a bringing some 3-4 elephants into this small hut. What will happen to this hut? Like that only enlightenment. But still my body is alive, active and talking to you means that single soul, Raghupati Yogi, is responsible. I remember him really with great respect and gratitude because at the age of 3, he chose me. I neither know about yoga, nothing. He chose me. Actually, he used to stay in the same street where my house was there, where I was born and brought up. In that same street, he used to stay. So he was a close friend of my father and grandmother and everybody, the whole family. He was born and brought up in Burma. In that time, Burma was not separate place. Burma was almost like India. And he stayed with the Tibetan Lamas also for quite a long time and learned this yoga and all those things with them. He himself is an adept, master in yoga. I can say few things about him as an introduction. Of course, if you read the biography, you would have read. He can fly on the air. I myself have seen. He can just lift himself on the air. And not only that, like a fun, he will make us go under him. Small boys, we used to just run under him. See whether anything else is there. He will just lift himself. Like a small boys run under something, under the cart. Like that we used to run under him. He can lift himself. And not only that, he will empty his lungs and tie a iron rope, iron wire, and he will just inhale. The iron wire will burst to pieces. It will burst to pieces. The power of his lungs or the inhaling, the iron wire will burst to pieces. He will exhale in a relaxed way. He will tie that iron wire. Just he will inhale. That's all. The wire will burst to pieces. And whenever he finds some snakes here and there, he will catch them and put them in the nose. They will go inside and come out through mouth. He will do all sorts of game. He's an adept in yoga. Adept in yoga. And not only that, when he eats something, after eating, he will just do something he will just snap. And simply in 2-3 seconds, The whole food, actually, he will just take the intestine out and clean it. I don't know how he is doing and all those things. If disciples, actually, some disciples, if they bring food and force him to eat, he never usually eats. If they force him to eat, he will eat in front of them just to console them out of compassion. The moment they go away, he will do something 2-3 seconds near the mouth, and just the whole intestine he will bring it out and wash it clearly with water and put it back. Impossible to comprehend all these things. It's an adept in Ashtanga Yoga and a master. I can say maybe the Parashakti has sent him to prepare my body or to prepare the body to hold the enlightenment. From the age of 3, actually, he will come to the house, he will stand below and shout. He is the first person who started calling me Samyar, means Swami. Because of him, everybody has started calling me Swami. Around the age of 3, I don't know what he meant by calling me Swami, or what he understood, or what, we don't know. He used to call me Swami. In Tamil, Samyar Paya means, I can't translate. It's a very slang way of addressing a small boy. I'll come down. He will take me to the main temple, the Arunachala temple. Make me do that all sorts of yoga practices, 3-4 hours. And finally take me to a nearby hotel and get me coffee and food. Actually, that is the only reason I used to go to. To tell you honestly, after that he will take me to the hotel. Nothing else matters. And he's a nice, very nice person. You can relate with him so well, and very loving person. Very loving. All sorts of magic he will do. Bringing chocolate, anything. And if I say that I will not come, no, today I am not coming, then he will say, I'll give you chocolate. Or something he will tell, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. And moreover, only in the initial level, something like a 6 months only, I will not come on all those drama. After seeing his materializing power and all, naturally the love and respect started growing. Love and respect started growing. The relationship became little intimate. Maybe around the age of 5, he materialized the conch. Still it is in our ashram. He materialized the conch. The full conch he materialized and gave me. That was the time I asked him for the initiation. That was the first time I asked him for initiation. He said, you have to go through step by step. Means the Yaman, all the eight parts, Ashtanga Yoga. And anyhow, he initiated me. The moment he initiated, the place where he initiated is, it's called Krittigai Mandapam in temple in Arunachala temple. The moment he initiated me, he gave me the Shakti mantra. The moment he gave that mantra, simply like a flash, I was able to see the Devi. With Angusha and Pasa, Abhaya and Varada, she was standing in front of me. The moment I saw the Devi, he was telling me, meditate on Devi. I said, she's here, I could see. He had the shock of his life. He himself never expected that I will have darshan of Devi immediately after initiation. And he asked me, what are you seeing? I said, I'm seeing Devi with 4 hands. She is there in front of me. He did not believe. Anyhow, he just smiled and left it. But I was filled with joy and ecstasy. When I went back to the house, I picked up a stone, picked up a nail, just heated the nail with beating. I made like a small chisel out of the nail and started carving what I saw. Whatever I saw, I carved on that stone. It took many days for me. Finally, somehow, I finished. Even then, I was not satisfied with the finishing. There was one friend who used to do this carving. I went and asked him to do little, asked him to help me. With this help, finally, somehow I finished the final touch. That is the Murti which you saw today evening, today morning, which you saw that Murti that was personally done by me around the age of 5 after the initiation. He taught me completely the Ashtanga Yoga, trained me from the first step to the all the 8 steps of Ashtanga Yoga. Pranayama, asana, especially some 3-4 hours he will make me to do asanas. And not only that, after that he will take me to the nearby hotel and get the coffee and food as I told you. Still that hotel owner is there. He remembers the whole thing. And there's one more beautiful incident. That hotel owner is a very charitable guy. He used to give food for sadhus. Every Amavasya and Purnima, he will get some 10 sadhus and give them food. One Amavasya, some reason, he did not get sadhus. Myself and this yogi, both of them went to his hotel. After we had a coffee, that hotel owner was complaining to that yogi. Today I did not get 10 sadhus. Usually I always get 10 sadhus in Amavasya and Purnima. I give them food, free food. Today I did not get the sadhus. My vow is broken. What to do? Then this yogi made a comment. Don't worry. You gave food for this boy, na? You have fed 1,000 sadhus. Don't worry. The yogi made a comment. And still that hotel owner remembers. Actually, just 1 year ago, when I went back to Arunachala, the hotel owner took me to his house and did Pada Puja. After that, with pouring eyes, he remembered and said the same incident. He remembered the incident and said, when the yogi said, I never believed, I never understood. Now I know. I have fed really thousands of sadhus. And that yogi told that hotel owner, don't think he's a small boy. When time comes, you will understand. And this yogi took my photograph also. See, in Indian villages, photography is not so popular, especially in those days. 20 years ago, photography is not an easy thing. It's a very big thing. And one more thing, still I remember, the camera will be like half of this room size. There will be a black curtain. That guy will get into that curtain and do damadama, dimidimi, some sound. And after 3 hours, he will come out. You have to be sitting for half an hour. And when he will take photo, you don't know. And it's a big job. And a lot of money also. At least 100 rupees those days you have to spend. Nowadays, photography has become very easy. 100 rupees you will get camera itself. In those days, this yogi took money from the hotel owner only to take the photograph. And naturally, the hotel owner will ask, even I was asking, why did you take photograph? Why do you want to take a photograph? But actually I was enjoying because being photographed is a big thing. Being photographed is a big thing. I asked him, why do you want to take the photograph? And so much of spending so much of money. And that hotel owner also asked him, why do you spend so much of money and take this photograph? That yogi did not answer. But after the photograph came, in a paper, he wrote, when time comes, whole world will thank me for this photograph. He wrote these very words in Tamil. He wrote these very words in Tamil and put that paper into that photograph, with that photograph, and gave it to me. Still we have photograph and the paper both in our ashram. That's the first photograph which you will be seeing, me sitting like this, maybe the age of 9. That's the first photograph you will be seeing. And this yogi used to teach me all these practices. Actually will make me climb on the pillars, on the stone temple pillars, holding one hand. I used to ask him, why are you making me doing all these things? He'll tell me, this is the age to do all these things. This is the age to do all these things. Actually, Ashtanga Yoga can be practiced only before the age of 14. Now I really understand Ashtanga Yoga is designed for the people, that is the syllabus for the people who are in Gurukul before the age of 14. That is not the syllabus for the people who are starting after 14. I tell you, now I can very clearly understand why that yogi was training me in Ashtanga Yoga at the age of, from the age of 3. Actually, my whole physical strength I vow to him. It's just because of his training. Hours together I used to do yoga. He will make me stand the top seater with Sirasasana, headstand for 1 hour, 2 hours. He will make me stand until he will tell me, till I come back, be like this. And he will go away somewhere. And I should be sitting because I have to have my coffee now. I have to have my coffee or toffee, whatever. So for that, I'll be standing there. And moreover, somehow the relationship got developed between me and him. Because of that, I started obeying him. Whatever he says, I started obeying him. And he's also very nice, funny guy. And he will do whatever I want. If I don't want to go to school, I'll tell, hey, today we will call him as Guru. Guruji, today I don't want to go to school. My maths teacher has given me homework. Just see that he doesn't come to school. And he will tell, all right, I'll take care, and the teacher will fall sick. Simply he will fall sick. The teacher will fall sick. This guy will do anything for me. And whatever I ask, it will be done. Simply it will be done. Because of that, whatever he says, I also used to do. Whatever he says, I used to do. Very intimate relationship. Actually, he used to tell me, this whole thing you have to finish learning before 14. I always wondered why. Actually, Ashtanga Yoga can never be learned after 14. Anybody who learned Ashtanga Yoga after 14, they only know the techniques. They can never have experience. Because the very basic thing, the Ashtanga Yoga's basic thing, Yama Niyama, means the Yama, Brahmacharya, Ahimsa, first thing Brahmacharya. Let me be very clear. Let me make a very bold statement. It's a very strong but true statement. After 14, only enlightened person can be Brahmachari. Let me be very clear. After 14, except enlightened person, Brahmacharya is simply impossible. If you have to master the Yama, it has to be done before 14. Before 14, it should have been done. If it has not happened after 14, unless you are enlightened, Brahmacharya is impossible. Either you should have mastered it, you should have mastered the Ashtanga Yoga before 14, or impossible. Simply impossible. It's not that I disrespect the sannyas tradition of our India. No, I don't disrespect. They are really working, striving to achieve, but except an enlightened being, it is impossible. I'm making a very bold statement for the sake of record. Let it be recorded. Just for that I'm making. But it's the truth. It's a 100% truth. Anybody wants to refute, I can stand for this statement. After 14, only an enlightened person can be brahmachari. Otherwise, it is impossible. So, Ashtanga Yoga can be mastered only before 14. Before 14 only Ashtanga Yoga can be mastered. Otherwise, it is impossible. I always tell this, even our ashram brahmacharis. I tell them, till enlightenment, brahmacharya is impossible. You are unmarried, just to avoid so much of nonsensical problems which will happen in your life if you are married. That's all. Be very clear. Brahmacharya is not a spiritual vow. Staying single is not a spiritual vow. It's a social vow. I am completely giving a new definition and dimension. Understand? I am breaking few strong ice layers. I tell these brahmacharis, I be very clear. Now you are single, because if you get married, the thousands of headaches and the problems, nonsense which you have to go through, just to escape from that, you are a single. But do not carry the guilt that brahmacharya is not happening in you. It will happen only when you become enlightened. I tell them very clearly. It will happen only when you become enlightened. So do not give spiritual importance to it. It's only a social law. And one more thing I tell them, do not think that married people are all living happily. There are more than 90% married people are also living as a celibates. And let you be very clear about the insider secrets. And do not think married people are all living as they want, or as you think. These unmarried guys are all thinking that married people are all living as they want. It's not. It is not true. If I have to break the ice openly, this is the truth. I tell them, do not think the other shore is green. Let me be very clear. Only the people who are sitting in this shore, they think the other shore is green. But the people who are on the other shore, they are thinking this shore is green. But the problem is there is no bridge to jump from here to there. There is only one-way bridge. From brahmacharya, you can go to marriage. From marriage, you can't skip. Anyhow, let's come to the subject. The Ashtanga Yoga is the syllabus created by Patanjali for the people who join the Gurukula around the age of 5 to practice till the age of 14. The whole Ashtanga Yoga finishes by 14. By 14. He used to make me to do all sorts of this yoga, physical and pranayam. Of course, above all, making me meditate, constantly meditate, asking me to concentrate on different chakras and meditation, different syllables, mantra, working with sound. He is such an adept in sound. He will just make few sounds. Dogs, the far away, actually something like 1 furlong away, the dogs which are there, they will just come running towards him. I have seen, he will just sit in his place and make few sound. It will not be even like a dog's voice. Just that sound. Dogs will come running towards him. He is such an adept in handling the sound. And I have seen him doing all sorts of things. He will break a stone with a sound. He will take a stone and hold in his hand, just create some sound in the throat. and that sound will feel like as if a hammer is hitting, and the stone will be there as a two-piece. You will give it in the hand. You will just take a stone near the mouth, that you will create a sound. The sound will be the same sound of like a hitting the hammer. He used to tell me the sound, when you are hitting the hammer, what sound is created. The same decibel sound, if you can create and concentrate it on a product, it will have the same effect of as if being beaten by the hammer. And simply the stone will become two-piece and he will give it in the hand. He's such an adept with the sounds. And just by creating a sound, I have seen him hiding people. He will hide people by creating a sound. Like a scream, the sound will become like a scream. He will hide the people. Actually, in those days, when I don't go to school, the village is too small village, so they will send the school watchman to go around and see wherever the boys are hiding, to bring them back, to bring them to school. Whenever my watchman comes, if this yogi is around me, I'll tell him, see, the watchman is coming. We call him as Tata, means the grandfather. The watchman is called as Tata. He was a very elderly gentleman. He is still alive. That watchman also remembers all these incidents. When this yogi is there, I'll tell him, see, that watchman is there. He will create some sound. The watchman will come. He will be standing in front of me, but he will see this side and that side. He will not be able to see me and he will go away.